So finally got the Jeep back after about 3 weeks in the paint shop, and then it took me about 2 weeks to get it back together. But it looks great, and I'm really excited to show it to everybody. So up here on the front end, had the front bumper sprayed with Line X, and that turned out really nice. Put these little red shackles on there. I thought a nice little contrast. New headlights, upgraded headlights at that. Up here on the front, new windshield, and actually that whole windshield frame is new. The old one was just too far gone, but I got a new windshield frame and I got a new windshield as well. Now these pieces here are like rocker, I guess they're like rocker protectors, and they're stainless steel from the factory, and they're actually pretty thick, pretty heavy duty, so I decided to keep them, and I had them Line X'd, and they're kind of wrap around the back like that. So this is the rear bumper. I also had that Line X'd as well, and my spare tire carrier, I had that sprayed with some Line X as well. So I ended up buying some new shoulder bolts for the spare tire carrier. I got those from a place called Albany County Fasteners, and I ended up having to go up a size to a 1/2 inch shoulder bolt, but they work really well once I drilled them out, and there's absolutely no play and no slop at all on that spare tire carrier. So on the inside of the Jeep, one of the coolest things I did, I think, was put in this stainless steel dash. This is from Logan's Metal Products, and I believe I got it on Morse 4x4, and it was a direct bolt in. I had no issues at all with the installation, and put in a new dash pad as well. And then I think probably the coolest thing I did was I had my glove box door airbrushed with an American flag. So I really like the way that turned out, and I just think the two things, the dash and the the new paint and the glove box, really set the Jeep off. So as far as the sport cage goes, it's a real pain to install, and it took a buddy of mine and I about 4 hours to put this thing in. It is not easy to do, probably not helped by the fact that I had it Line X, which kind of adds a little bit to the thickness of it. But you're going to have to kind of convince this thing to go into place. Once you get it in place, it's really sturdy, really strong, and really adds quite an element of safety to a CJ7. So a couple things I would do differently to prepare better next time. I would get some longer bolts, because sometimes these couplers just won't, the bolts that are with them are pretty short and they just won't reach. So you can get some longer bolts and get them to get them to thread in, and then you can kind of pull the sections together, and that's kind of what we had to do. I'd also recommend getting a 1/4 inch Allen head socket, so you can put this thing on a ratchet, you could put it on a cordless drill, you could put it on a air tool to help make this installation a little easier. Last thing that we did, and because I do woodworking, I had some long 8-foot long pipe clamps, and so sometimes we would pull the pipes together. Sometimes we would use it as a spreader to pull the pipes apart. We also had to loosen the roll bar. I didn't take the bolts out of the roll bar, but I loosened it just to give it some play to get this thing to all line up. Now, one thing that will happen with this sport cage is if you do not have this kind of dash pad, the kind that has those little ends, you will have to trim your dash pad. So that's why I ended up getting a new one. I did sell my other one pretty easily. And then the sport cage here, you can see your two bolts, and that is where you would release your windshield to lay that down. So it's a little bit more cumbersome to do that, and if you ever have to get behind the dash for anything, it's going to be a pain, because you're probably going to have to take that whole thing out. So even though it was kind of a pain, it does make me feel more secure in the CJ, and I just like the way it looks as well. It does pretty much render your visors useless. So one other thing I did do here was this put in this rocker switch, and so my Jeep has electric fans, dual electric fans, and the fan box, the controller, broke in the process of removing the fenders to paint it, and I had to get a new box. And I almost ended up overheating driving it around because I didn't realize the fans weren't working, and then I couldn't get them to work. So this switch, you can hear that. That switch turns them on and is kind of a manual override for the electric fans. So I'm real happy with the way the Jeep looks. The paint looks great. The guy did a really good job for me. The parts I got Line-X look great. The dash looks great. The glove box just really sets it off. And then, of course, the sport cage, I think, adds a lot to it as far as looks goes as well. So up next, I've got to install my radio and speakers. I've got body mounts, new energy suspension body mounts that I've had for a while. And then lastly, I've got the Smitty built Nerf bars to put on the side. So I'm going to work on those couple of things because I have them already, and then I'm still in a research, I guess, debate mode about a 350 in this thing. The straight six that's in here is pretty tired, and I'm either going to get that rebuilt with the transmission, or I'm going to end up getting a different transmission and putting a 350 in it, which is what I want to do. We'll just have to see. So stay tuned, more to come.